Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing my end of year slash last 4 months of the year stats video. So I am a bit of a data nerd and I like analysing things. So one of the things I like to analyse is my reading. I will link the other videos down below, but basically every 4 months I have been doing like an analysis and a check-in with all my reading goals and stuff. Because it's the end of the year and I'm going to do my massive end of year stats video, I thought I would combine the two. So I'm going to first talk about my reading from September to December, so the last 4 months of the year, talk about that very briefly, and then we're going to talk about 2019 as the whole, how I got on with my goals and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a fair bit to get through, so I will get on with it. So from September to December, I read a total of 68 books, which is pretty good. A lot of that was done not in November. November was my worst reading month, and I mentioned in my previous one that my reading seemed to be getting faster. That's definitely true because I was reading almost 20 books a month by the end of the year, which is really, really good. I'm very excited and hoping to continue with that into 2020. Next we have the number of books I read a month and the ratings, like the average rating for each month, which you can see here. I will hold that up. I will also make a document with all these things down below because, to be honest, I'm not sure how well you can see them. But as you can see, hopefully, my best reading month was December in terms of the number of books I read, and November was the worst by far. So I read 22 books, I think, in December in the end, and only 10 in November. Ratings wise, it were actually all pretty similar. My best one was October, but only by a fraction, so that was 3.86, an average rating, and the next highest was December, which was 3.78. In terms of the number of arcs I read 12 arcs between September and December, and I gave an average rating of 3.38 for those arcs, which isn't great, but I'll be checking in a little bit because one of my goals was to be more selective about the arcs I read and hopefully rate them higher overall, so we'll see if I actually manage to do that. So now we have the number of books and the rating by genre. So I'll get in closer so you can try to see that. All of these, for once, horror was actually my most read amount, which we can blame October for that, unsurprisingly. Non-fiction, as per usual, is my highest in terms of rating, which makes sense because I only pick up non-fiction that I'm really, really excited about. And all the others weren't too far behind, so there's not actually that much difference, which is really cool. Interestingly enough, I also read more fantasy than I did thrillers. Normally thrillers are my most read genre, but I did reread all of Harry Potter in this time period, so that probably explains a decent chunk of those. And finally, for the September to December period, we now have my most common rating given. So this is the number by rating. And my most common one is 3.5, which I think has been the case for all of the months, and we shall see if it's the case for the entire year. But yeah, again, good, because all the lower ones, the lower ratings are very small and smaller than the bigger ones, which is what I wanted, so that's good. On to my yearly statistics, and these are the ones that I think will be more interesting. I kind of raced through the last 4 months of the year, but it's because now I know how my goals have all panned out. So the first thing we'll talk about is I read 200 books, which is amazing. My goal was 100, so I literally doubled it, which I'm very happy about. And more importantly, my overall average rating for those 200 books was 3.72, which I'm very, very happy about. My average rating in 2018 was 3.37, and I really thought that was quite low considering the amount of books I read, and I really wanted to raise that. So the fact that it's gone up to 3.72, which is almost 4, it makes me really happy. So hopefully I can maintain that, and it shows that this year I have at least been better at picking up books that I've rated more highly, which is great. So now I have a graph that is the overview of all of my monthly stats. So I might zoom in a minute, but I will show you, this is what the whole graph looks like. These are the numbers of books and the ratings I gave per month. So overall, in terms of the number of books, I read the most books in August, where I read 23, and I read the least books in November, where I read 10. But yeah, in general, like I said, my reading My reading, you can see I read more books near the end of the year, if you exclude November, and that's really good. I was hoping that would happen, and it feels like my reading's getting faster, which is really cool. In terms of rating, there wasn't really that much difference, to be honest. My best rated month was June by like a tiny amount, and that was 3.91, an average that I rated in June. And my worst rating month was March, and that was 3.58. So there's not too much, and it means that my worst reading month I still gave 3.5 stars on average, which is really cool. It means that everything was kind of spread out and I didn't have any particularly awful reading month. Now we have the genre statistics. So this is technical difficulties. This is an overview of the genres that I read and how much I rated them and the number I read of them. So, unsurprisingly, the highest number that I read was thriller. It was the same last year. This year I read 55 thrillers in total, and last year I read 51, so not much difference. This time though, my second highest rated was horror, and I read 42 horror books in total, and last year I only read 19, so that's amazing. I think that's one of the reasons my ratings have increased as well, because I love horror, and I've discovered some really great authors this year, so I'm very, very happy with that. In terms of rating, the ratings do not reflect those genres, which again isn't surprising. So graphic novel is my highest rating category with 4.67. However, I only read about 3 or 4 graphic novels, so make of that what you will. Non-fiction is a bit better. I read, I think, how many non-fiction books did I read? I read 14 non-fiction books, and I gave them an average rating of 4.29, so those were my highest rated genres and my most read genres. We get into arcs now, and as I mentioned, one of my key goals was that I wanted to be better at picking arcs. So last year I gave an average rating of 3.14 for my arcs, which felt quite low given that they're new releases you're meant to be really excited about, and I read 35 arcs in total last year. And now this year I read 41 in total, and my average rating was 3.4 exactly. So it did go up. It didn't go up by a lot. However, this year I've definitely felt like I'm more aware of the arcs that I've been picking, and I've had some really great books. So I think last year a lot of the arcs kind of got 3 stars on average, and that was why the rating overall was like 3.14. Whereas this year it felt like I still gave out a fair few 3 stars, but it felt like I even had like a 5 star. And unfortunately I also had some really low stars, not many, but there was like a 2 star or a 2.5 star a couple of times. So I feel that the stats don't necessarily reflect the change, but I feel like there has been a change, so I'm kind of happy with how that goal is panning out. The next thing I'm going to comment on is how many books I read that were standalones versus series. So as a reminder, I read 200 books overall, and 41 of those books were part of a series, which is really cool because I'm not a big series reader. It's one of my... I don't mind it on the whole, but sometimes I do regret it because I will start a book in a series and really enjoy it, and then I just can't pick up the second one. By the time I get round to it, I have to reread the first one because I've forgotten what happened. And I'm just really, really bad at finishing series. But last year I read 22 books that were part of a series, and that's basically doubled almost because it's 41 this year. So that's quite cool. I finished the entirety of The Raven Boys, which is quite the accomplishment for me. Didn't necessarily enjoy it that much, but I did it. And I started quite a few series in November time that I'm hoping to finish at the start of 2020. So we'll see if I can do that. So now we have another statistic I'm pretty excited about, and that is the number of books by rating. So this is the graph. So you can see the ratings are along the bottom and the number of books I read with that rating. So impressively, 4 stars was actually my most given rating, which is really, really cool. I believe last year it was 3.5. Yes, it was 3.5. So that's really, really cool that most of the books I've read are now 4 stars. I'm really happy about that. Other notable stats, I gave 16 5-star ratings in 2019 compared to the 2 that I gave in 2018. So once again, I think that's such a good improvement for me. I never give 5-star ratings, and I don't think that I've become more lax about giving them. I think I've just been better at prioritising books that I really, really want to read and I think I will love, and I think that's great. I'm glad I'm doing that. Other notable things, so the number 4.5 stars increased from 5 to 21, which is incredible. 4 stars was 22 last year, it was 56 this year. And interestingly enough, I gave the same number of 3.5 star ratings. I gave 40 both last year and this year. So again, that's proof that I didn't give less 3.5 star ratings, I just gave more higher star ratings, which is awesome, that's great. And also with the lower numbers, I had 1 1-star book, no 1.5 star books, 9 2-star books, and I think that's 7 2.5 star books. So that's like nothing out of 200 books. So the majority of books I really enjoyed, which is great. And the final statsy thing I'm going to talk about for stats, and I'll review my goals, is last year I only really had 4 genres that I talked about, and 3 of them are the same as categories I gave this year. So I thought it'd be cool to see if I rated those specific genres higher. So for fantasy, last year I gave it 3.38, and that rose to 3.53 this year, which is really cool. Thriller, I gave 3.11, so despite being my most read, it was one of my worst rated. And this year that has jumped to 3.52, so yes, I'm reading fewer mediocre thrillers, which is great, that's what I want. I love thrillers when they're good. And horror went from 3.42 to 3.64, so not a massive jump, but you know, I've read way, way more horror, which is cool. So now we have a brief overview of the goals. So the main goal was our 2018 releases that I wanted to read in 2019. There will be a separate video where I'm going through them in actual detail. But I read all of them. I DNF'd 2 of them, but I tried to read all of them. And in general, I rated them really well, so look out for that video when it comes out. Similar vein, I had 10 authors that I really wanted to read, and I read all 10 of them, so that's fantastic. Again, there will be another video coming up where I review that goal in detail and talk about what I thought of each author and that kind of thing. It's too much for one video, so I'm just going to split them up. Other goals I wanted to read 20 non-Stephen King horror books, which I definitely did. I think I read, I said 42 horror books, and I think I only read 2 Stephen King books, so I absolutely smashed that goal. And I will continue to read more horror. I think it's not going to be an official goal for this year, but I'm following the Ladies of Horror Fiction Twitter, and I really want to read more female written fiction, horror fiction specifically, because I feel like horror can be kind of problematic in parts, and I feel like if it's written, and I don't want a massive generalisation, but if it's written by a woman, it's probably going to be less objectifying towards women. I'm just going to leave that at that and move on. The next goal was to be more selective about thrillers. I think I was, not massively. I still need to work on that, but my average rating did improve, so that's good. Be more selective about arcs, I've already talked about that. Read 10 books by authors I love. I didn't track this goal at all. I don't think I quite made it. I did make an effort to try and read more books by authors I love. Again, it's similar to the series thing. If I read one book by an author and I love their work, I will add that other books to my TBR, but then not read them for ages and ages and ages. And obviously that's not a great way to read books you really enjoy. So I will continue to try to prioritise that in 2020. Read 1 physical book a month, that did not happen. And remove 1 book from my TBR a month. That didn't happen, but I did have 2 huge purges, and my Goodreads TBR is still at over 1,000 books. But at certain points it did drop to around 900, so it's okay. So I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. I hope you had a fantastic reading year in 2019, and I hope 2020 is even better for you. Let me know if you like the sound of any of these goals, what your goals are for 2020. I don't know what order anything's going to go up in, but I'm going to have, this month will basically just be goals videos and reviews of my goals from 2019, hopefully interspersed with some other stuff so you don't get bored, but yeah, that is the main plan. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively. And I hope to see you next time.